Hey, what is going on, guys? With Project Era Season 8 fast approaching, and it should be coming out soon. In fact, it may already be out by the time this video launches. I want to give you a loadout guide and kind of a refresher of what type of weapons I recommend you use in Era Season 8 and give my verdict on overall how good I think the meta is. Now, of course, we did play Project Era way back in like April and the very start of May, but that was a long time ago, and you may have played other projects, other games, and kind of forgotten what the meta is, so hopefully this video can serve as a refresher. We'll go over the 5 weapon classes, which are shotguns, ARs, the SMG backup role, snipers, and then finally structure destroyers, and then I'll give my verdict on how good I think the meta overall is. Okay, let's start out with shotguns. Unfortunately, I think the shotgun class, while being the most important in pretty much any build of Fortnite, is not that great in Era, honestly. You have 2 weapons that exist, the pump shotgun and the tac shotgun, but let's really be honest, the tac shotgun is not really all that great. Sure, blue tac versus green pump, maybe I can see an argument for the tac. But once you reach the blue pump, you have a draw speed advantage, which is critical, and you also have that huge one-shot potential. And the problem with the tac, and I will continue to say this over and over, is that as long as the shotgun delay exists, the tac just isn't going to be all that competitive. Because if you shoot, build, and shoot with the tac, your rate of fire is bottlenecked so much to the point where you're almost as slow as the pump anyway. So you might as well just use the pump. So not an ideal meta. Some people really like pump dominated metas because it really puts a focus on mechanical skill. Can you out-edit, piece control, all of that. That's fair enough. But overall, it just kind of pigeonholes people into playing one specific way, which I think is unfortunate. But that's just the reality of Era Season 8. But the good news, though, is that the Spaz does not draw ridiculously fast like it does in Season 7. So it's still, I'd say it's overall like better than Easy FN Season 7. Arguably, you could argue double pump's really fun, but I think that double pump is too busted. I think it's an alright shotgun meta. It's not my favorite, though. Moving to ARs, I think the AR meta is actually really, really good. Because I think there are 5 viable options, and depending on the way you play, you're probably going to find at least 3 super competitive choices. You have the standard AR, silenced AR, heavy AR, infantry rifle, and scoped AR. And I list them in that way because it's really a spectrum. The most close range oriented AR is the standard AR, and then the silence and the heavy, and if you want to go to long range, then it's going to be scoped is best, then infantry, then heavy. And that's great because no matter how you like to play, whether you like to run an SMG, whether you want to run a sniper, it gives you so many flexible choices. You may not like every option, but that's fine. There's 5 possible choices. You can probably find 2 or 3 that you like. Now, something to keep in mind is remember that the scoped AR does 26-27 damage, which is not a massive buff against Season 7, 23-24, but it does help make it a little bit more viable. And the infantry rifle is a hit scan weapon. It's not like Easy FN Season 7 where it's a garbo weapon. It actually is quite decent. One final thing to note, the heavy AR really works great with L2, but if you're playing on keyboard, you're probably better off with the infantry, which shoots a little faster, does a little more damage, and is more accurate. So really going to be down to your input there. So with that, overall, amazing meta in terms of the ARs. Let's move on to the SMG/backup class. I think there's really up to 5 viable choices, but I'd say 3 super competitive ones. You have the compact SMG, silenced SMG, flintlock pistol, hand cannon, dual pistols. Dual pistols and hand cannon, I think, are on the fringes of being viable. I don't think they're particularly amazing, but they can work. But, the flintlock, compact, and silenced are all very good choices. For me, I'd probably say the silenced is overall the best in my eyes, and the flintlock is most fun. But if you like the compact, that's totally fine. I think it's a good selection. You're always going to be running it with the pump realistically, so there's a very good use for backup weapons, but you don't have to run them. If you run pump plus silenced or standard AR, you can get away without running a secondary weapon. It's really up to you. In terms of the snipers, I think the sniper meta is very good as well. The sound sniper, hunting rifle, heavy sniper, and boom bow are all available, and they're all at least viable. Heavy sniper is probably overall the best choice because it has that utility at close range of one-shotting walls, but all of them are very usable. One thing to note is I do think the boom bow, as the game goes on, is not that oppressive, but early game it's a nuisance because it does 100 splash damage, which means all you have to do early game is hit a shot anywhere near your opponent and they'll instantly be eliminated because they only have 100 health. I think that's not great. I really think the boom bow should only do 95 splash damage at most, but that's just the situation. Once it gets to the end game, I don't think the boom bow is actually that busted. Finally, in terms of the structure destroyers, there's definitely three solid options: minigun, RPG, and grenade launcher. You have to remember in Season 8, you have the faster wind-up time with the minigun, so it's definitely a very usable weapon. RPG and grenade launcher both also quite decent. If vending machines are working properly, you can find the RPG somewhat regularly. It's not like Season 7 where you never find it. So I think that's also a pretty good meta as well. Now just to wrap up for final conclusions, overall I'd say you want to be running 2 to 4 weapons. In extreme situations, you could run 1 or 5, but you really want to have at least a shotgun and at least an AR, and you can pick up to 2 of those other classes, so backup weapons, snipers, and structure destroyers. I think that's a really solid meta where you have many choices where you're not locked in and carrying 3 guns for whatever reason, and you should have siphons, so you shouldn't have to carry triple heal by any means, so I think that's overall pretty good. I think it's a pretty decent meta, you know. Except shotguns, every class has at least 3 competitive choices, which is exactly what I want to see. There's only really 3 Garbo tier weapons: the pistol, scope revolver, and thermal AR. Those aren't really good, but there's only 3 of them, so I don't see that as being too big of a deal. Generally, and this is a subjective take, but I'd say that Era Season 8 is going to have a better meta than most other projects that I'm aware of, simply because outside of shotguns, the meta is very free and interesting. The weapons are overall pretty powerful, but not completely busted. I think it's overall really fun meta that's honestly quite enjoyable to play. I would say, though, I would argue that EZFN Season 4 does have a better overall meta because while there's fewer choices in the snipers, AR class, you have just a plethora of choices in with double shotgun and shotgun SMG. There's at least 6 super competitive combos, over a dozen viable combos. You know, Era Season 8 just isn't going to match that. Because you have to run the pump, you really only have 3 to 5, you know, competitive/viable options, which is not bad, but against a dozen, it's just not there. But overall, I'd still say it's a pretty good meta. Definitely excited for Era. I think it's going to be overall fun, but we'll just have to see how it goes. If they make adjustments, of course, I can let you know about that once we figure those out. But I suspect the game will overall play fairly similar to how it did before. I don't expect they're going to do a massive loot pool change. So with that, I hope this video was helpful and interesting, and I'll catch you in the next one.